Well, the hits keep coming for the Indiana Fever. They started the game with all league talent, Caitlin Clark, then finished it without their other 2 point guards. Sydney Colson went down in the first half. Sophie Cunningham in the second half with injuries. Now, head coach Stephanie White did not have any updates to provide post-game, but she did note that she saw Colson in the locker room post-game.
It's better to happen now than later on in the year. Because we're still so early and we can still, figure it out and adjust to it, because losing bodies like that at the end of the year is really hard to adjust, especially when you're in a rhythm. But good thing we're not in a rhythm right now, so still figuring it out. So it's just going back to just keep starting over every day. So that's kind of where we are, but I don't think it's deflating.
It punched us in the gut for a little while. But look, the reality is, this stuff happens. We've seen it time and time again in our league, and having to find a way. We can't take 2.5 quarters to then, figure it out. From a toughness standpoint, from an energy standpoint, I was proud of our fight in the fourth quarter. After Sophie goes down, I was proud of our fight. But our consistency throughout the course of the game has to be better.
Yeah, the Fever have been hit by a ton of adversity just a few weeks into the season. It was training camp starting just about a month ago, and now they're having to figure out a lot on the fly. And yet, they were in this game until the very end, had a shot to win it in the final 5 seconds. But ultimately, the Fever committed 15 turnovers, leading to 30 points for the Connecticut Sun in what was a Sun win, 85-83 over the Fever Friday night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Now, it was the first home game for the Fever here at the Fieldhouse without Caitlin Clark in uniform. They obviously played that game in Baltimore against the Washington Mystics, but this is week 1 of her being out for at least a couple weeks. It may stretch further, to be determined when you're dealing with a quad strain, but she will be reevaluated after that June 7th date. And so despite all that, great crowd on hand, 16,262. There certainly were some pockets of empty seats, empty suites, but overall, still a great crowd on this Friday night to see the Fever battle the Sun, who were winless entering this game. They didn't return any of their starters from last year. It was a little bit of a reunion with Stephanie White, the coaching staff, and Dewana Bonner on the Fever side after being in Connecticut the last couple of years. Now, this Fever team, they're in a tough spot right now. No doubt about that right now, as they are trying to deal with the constant adversity that they have been struck with right now. As each time they try to establish a team identity, the plans continue to get derailed. Now, they led by 2 at the end of the first quarter. Then Colson's leg injury happened. It was J.C. Sheldon landing on her, and I couldn't tell if it was a knee, a leg whip, whatever. It was not good or comfortable. She needed assistance back to the locker room with the head athletic trainer and was looked at. We never did see her the rest of the night. Marina Mabry then in the second half erupted, went off for 15 of her game-high 26 points in the third frame, helping the Sun push their lead to as many as 12 there, and eventually got up to 15 in the fourth quarter. But the Fever then, they responded. 16 unanswered points, part of a 19-2 burst from this Fever team to take the lead. It was a lot in due part to getting stops. They got stops on 9 consecutive possessions, and then secondarily on the other side, they started to make some three-pointers. Started the game 2 of 11 from distance, made 5 in a row. First from Lexi Hall, then back-to-back triples from Dewana Bonner, who was coming off a season-best 21-point performance against the Mystics. She even banked one in.
It's hard when you keep losing people. You try to piece it together, and we came in with a one-game plan. Then you lose your other point guard, so you got to pivot on the fly. And we're a new team at that, so we got all these new pieces. So we were still trying to figure out when we had CC and Sid. Then you lose those 2 pieces, then you kind of gotta you lose CC, we regroup. Then you lose Sid, then you have to regroup. So just trying to stay together and stay positive, and get through this storm right now.
Hesitant on coming to the ball, moving without the ball. Am I passing it or am I not passing it? Instead of really letting it flow. Part of that's still getting to know one another. I think part of that is understanding what to get, which actions we're trying to get in the system. We got to simplify in a big way. And then we got to continue to build and grow. Look, there's no question, we're hitting adversity right now.
Now the Fever led 78-76, but then they gave up back-to-back triples by the Sun, who on the evening were terrific from outside, 10 of 20 from long range, and again, that too was the big difference. It was points off turnovers for the Sun and their sharp shooting from distance. And still, the Fever had the ball 5.8 seconds left, but didn't get a good look at it in a 2-point loss.
We found another gear. As much as the Sydney injury was probably a gut punch for us, the Sophie one gave us a little bit of juice. And so we found another gear. I thought our activity level on the defensive end was really good. We stopped being hesitant. We started taking our open shots. We were aggressive to the rim. As far as the last play, it wasn't clean. We didn't get it in cleanly. I thought we were gonna, the way it was developing looked like we were gonna have a good look. But it just wasn't clean.
Now, earlier this week, talking to Fever players, they were talking about how it's kind of like they're starting over with Caitlin Clark going out. Now, with 2 more injuries, it's the same thing. They're continuing to have to bottom out a little bit and move forward with the players that are available in a new system with the new coaching staff here with the Fever, which is not making things any easier. But you got to trust the coaching staff that they know what they're doing with this group, that they can keep providing the positive messaging while also rewarding those players who are contributing out on the court. And it takes time, to be clear. Look, they're 2-4 on the season. They've lost 3 in a row, 4 of 5, but nobody expected this type of injury, certainly not with Caitlin Clark. And the challenge becomes when the focal point of your team, how this team was built upon, when that structure is ripped out, part of the foundation struggles, right? Part of the house drops down a little bit. It dips because your foundational piece is unavailable right now. This team still has a long ways to go. That's the positive news here, that it's happening early in the season. Players are still figuring out the system, figuring out their roles right now, but certainly one of the main things the front office will have to consider over the next couple of days is looking into adding an emergency hardship player, with Clark out at least another month, and then Colson and Cunningham needing help off the court with injuries.
We got to get creative. We got to figure out who can get us into offense. We got to figure out what actions we can run. And we're gonna have to do the same thing defensively.
I think a lot of it is just not knowing where we need to go, first of all, and then a lot of hesitancy. What's the word? That. A lot of just a lot of hesitancy, and just people thinking that they're gonna be there, then they're not. You're going back door, you're not, and just still trying to learn each other and figure each other out is just having us throw this ball all over the court, and that's where we got to go back. And good thing we got 2 or 3 days in between this game before we face DC again, and try to go back to the drawing board and figure it out. Just gotta keep pushing.
The Fever had great balance tonight, 5 in double figures, led by Aaliyah Boston's performance in this one. She made her first 7 shots, finished the game with 17 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, coming off a game where she needed more shots, more than the 4 for 5 that she went in the loss to the Mystics. And you just need to feed her the ball more, take advantage of post-ups, take advantage of playing through her. They did that more, but again, it just kept getting interrupted by those fouls. Now, I asked her about it post-game, and here's what she had to say.
I think that's pretty hard, especially just me wanting to be that post presence, being able to have to sit or have to kind of back off a little bit just because of how the fouls are being called. I love my money, so I'm going to end the answer there.
Kelsey Mitchell scored 13, Dewana Bonner with 13, Lexi Hall scoring 12 in the starting lineup. Now, the Fever will take Saturday off, then have 2 practice days ahead of Tuesday's game right here at the Fieldhouse against the Washington Mystics yet again. And tomorrow night, though, here at the Fieldhouse, Saturday night, it's Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals as the Pacers host the Knicks. 1 win, and they are on to the NBA Finals for the first time in a quarter century. For FieldhouseFiles.com, I'm Scott Agness.